Your predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre, who presided over many novel press access restrictions.
I think that's the same individual who said from this podium numerous times that the commander-in-chief was mentally and physically up for the job, which we knew was a lie. Many people in this room knew it was a lie. Many of you were admonished for asking questions about that truth. So when it comes to truth and transparency, this administration, this White House is setting the example.
I like how KJP makes me feel. She gives me confidence that I could do that job. Former Biden press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre announced that she's writing a tell-all book about the Biden administration. In response, people are saying, thanks, but I just wanted a Big Mac.
She walked into that press briefing like it was just another day at the office. But what happened next? Let's just say things took a sharp turn. Karine Jean-Pierre had barely started giving her usual White House talking points when Greg Gutfeld jumped in and he didn't hold back. Karoline Leavitt followed up, and together they delivered a fiery back and forth that left Karine scrambling. What started as a routine press moment turned into a public roast, with Gutfeld cracking sharp jokes and Leavitt driving her message home with confidence. It wasn't just criticism, it was entertainment, headline-worthy and impossible to ignore. Gutfeld brought his signature sarcasm and punchy humor, turning political critique into a performance. His jabs weren't just clever, they hit hard. And when you compare how Karoline now handles that podium, it's hard not to see the difference. She's direct, poised, and clearly in control. In the end, it was a moment that showed the pressure of the job and how quickly things can unravel. 1 second you're in charge of the message, but next, you're the story. If you've ever wondered what happens when media savvy meets sharp comedy, this was it. A roast that lit up headlines and left a lasting mark.
All right, so Karine Jean-Pierre wrote a book, and her fans are already sharpening their crayons. And it's just what we need, a tell-all from the woman who spent 2 years telling everyone that Joe just had a cold and not rigor mortis. If the title hadn't already been taken, it should be called Art of the Steal.
Be honest, watching Karine Jean-Pierre answer questions sometimes feels like talking to one of those automated customer service lines. You know the kind. You keep saying representative over and over, hoping for a real person, but eventually you just give up. In the world of politics, she's like hitting every red light on your way home. Ask her a clear, direct question, and instead of a straight answer, she gives you a carefully worded response that ends up going in circles. It's like watching someone try to talk their way around the truth without ever quite landing on it.
KJP also says she's leaving the Democratic Party. I say God bless her. Not many people have the patience to wait in a line that long. In her book, she says the White House was broken. This after 2 years along a president who wasn't housebroken. But she only realized this after she stopped getting paid to defend it. But like Jake Tapper's book, it's a new genre of Biden tell-alls that should be subtitled, I had no idea because I'm severely retarded.
Let's face it, Joe Biden isn't exactly sprinting past any presidents in a foot race, especially not FDR. And we're supposed to believe Karine Jean-Pierre couldn't keep up with him. This is the same guy who needed a security fence just to stay on the White House lawn. Come on. And then there's Greg Gutfeld, stepping in with nothing but sharp wit and a functioning brain, two things that seem to completely short-circuit Karine every time she's asked for a straight answer. When it comes to giving real information, she's about as reliable as a glitchy weather app and brings the same urgency as a DMV clerk halfway through lunch.
Now, she realizes she was carrying water for a man whose brain was as wet as his pants. Remember, this is the same broad who stared America in the face and said this.
Comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. 80's the new 40, didn't you hear? He is as sharp as ever. They are cheap fakes video. They are done in bad faith.
And it's not true, right? The president wasn't wandering.
Is anyone in the White House hiding information about the president's health or his ability to do the job day to day?
Absolutely not.
He's the president of the United States. I can't even keep up with him.
To be fair, Karine Jean-Pierre deserves some credit when it comes to dodging questions. She's in a league of her own. If political evasion were an Olympic sport, she'd be bringing home more gold than Michael Phelps. You ask her something direct, and somehow she ends up on a completely different topic without ever touching the actual point. Greg Gutfeld didn't even have to go full blast to call it out. He just lit a match, nothing dramatic, and suddenly, Karine was unraveling faster than a pile of old press briefings. You don't need a team of fact-checkers to analyze her responses. Just listen closely and see if she ever actually answers the question. Spoiler alert, she doesn't. What made it so effective is that Gutfeld didn't need fireworks or angry rants. A few dry looks and sharp one-liners were enough to throw her off. At one point, it felt like she was about to start quoting cartoon characters just to get through the moment. Watching her try to explain things was like someone attempting to break down cryptocurrency to a houseplant, confusing, pointless, and a little painful for everyone involved. And the pattern? It never changes. After months of missteps confusing inflation with climate change, border policy with whatever the cheat sheet says that day, you'd think maybe, just maybe, she'd switch up her game plan. But nope, it's the same old routine. Dodge the question, pivot to something unrelated, blame the last administration, throw in a few trendy phrases, and pray nobody asks a follow-up. At this point, she's like a human magic 8-ball. A question, give her a shake, and hope the answer has anything to do with what was asked. And the irony, her actual job is communication. Yet her delivery has the warmth and clarity of a kitchen appliance. Every answer feels like watching a hamster try to solve a Rubik's Cube, frantic, determined, but absolutely going nowhere.
Yeah, you couldn't keep up with Joe. Sorry, Joe couldn't keep up with FDR in the 100-yard dash. And I'm talking right now.
Damn.
But she expected us to believe she couldn't keep up with the guy who had to have an electric fence put up around the White House so he wouldn't in the neighbor's yard.
Let's not pretend any of this is a surprise. Karine Jean-Pierre has been dodging accountability since day one. If she got any more elusive, she'd need a new name and a spot in witness protection. Her idea of preparation seems to involve slipping on a pair of serious-looking glasses and cobbling together random charts like she's giving a TED talk in an alternate reality one where facts are more like suggestions. And what does she always bring to the podium? That massive binder. It's so big, it could probably apply for its own congressional seat. But every time she opens it, it's like trying to read the fine print on the back of a shampoo bottle. Vague, overly complicated, and totally disconnected from anything the average person actually deals with. Greg Gutfeld didn't even have to stretch the truth to make his point. Just standing next to that binder, it looked like Karine might be moonlighting as a truck stop librarian on the overnight shift. And the irony, her own words often sound like parody. She stood there and claimed the border is sick. Chaos plays out like the finale of The Walking Dead. She's declared the economy is thriving, while grocery stores start to look like high-end tech boutiques. $12 for eggs, and you still need a miracle to fill your tank. At this point, reality isn't something she reports, it's just something she waves to from a distance, safely wrapped in spin and buzzwords. And yet, there she is, binder in hand, answering questions with all the clarity of a fogged-up windshield.
So was Karine too dumb to notice Biden was a mess, or was she just dishonest? Pick your poison, moron or mercenary. Now there's a great name for her book. I'm going with mercenary, because this whole book tour didn't spring from a burst of guilt. According to Politico, she was copying her publicist on emails while still press secretary. So she was planning this from the podium. She's like a pilot who puts on his parachute and oxygen mask while your plane's leaving the airport.
And the excuses. Oh, the excuses. In Karine Jean-Pierre's world, nothing is ever her responsibility. Ever. If a meteor flattened DC tomorrow, she'd probably blame climate change, systemic racism, the Supreme Court, and Greg Gutfeld's eyebrows, likely in that exact order. Watching her deflect blame is like watching a kid get caught drawing on the wall and insist the crayon did it all on its own. Greg Gutfeld, always calm and razor sharp, didn't have to interrupt or press her. He just let her talk and talk, until her argument unraveled into a jumbled word salad so thick and confusing it could make a vegan cry. Because at some point, you don't debate Karine, just hand her the verbal rope and let the spin collapse under its own weight. What makes it even more bizarre is that she often acts like she's winning the moment, but come on, she's not even in control of her own binder. Every time she flips a tab, it's like opening another chapter in How Not to Be a Press Secretary. Honestly, she could publish that thing and call it 50 Shades of Spin, a tragic comedy of circular answers, buzzwords, and deflections. Gutfeld knew exactly what he was doing. He didn't need to shout or fire off talking points. He treated the entire exchange like a sketch from a late-night comedy show, because that's what it turned into. Karine is the only person who can take a simple yes or no question and turn it into a 3-part documentary nobody asked for. Her answers loop around so many times, even Google Maps would eventually give up and say, "You're on your own."
So this wasn't a crisis of faith, it was a business plan. She didn't leave the Democrat Party. She managed her exit like Pelosi dumping stocks before she signs the corporate tax hike. She was even pining for a spot on The View, which is like angling for the best seat in a garbage truck. But she didn't get the gig, probably because she refused their lunch bucket of thawed mackerel. That's what you feed the talent at SeaWorld.
And we can't ignore the smug confidence, that unmistakable look of someone who thinks skimming a memo counts as managing a crisis. During her briefings, Karine Jean-Pierre wears an expression that says, "Don't worry, I've got this," while her actual answers scream, "Error 404, policy not found." Greg Gutfeld didn't need a stack of hard-hitting facts to take her down, he just let her talk. She unraveled all on her own, buried under a mess of confusing metaphors and carefully vague phrasing. At one point, she tried to explain inflation using kitchen tables and family dinners, as if rising prices at the pump can be solved with a bedtime story. Apparently, little Timmy can't afford juice is now a serious economic talking point. Compelling stuff. Now, try using that tone to explain why filling your gas tank feels like booking a therapy session. Meanwhile, Gutfeld just sat there with a grin, like a guy watching a magician drop every single card. And who could blame him? Every answer Karine gives is like a firework that fizzles midword loud, colorful, and ultimately hollowed out. At this point, she's not functioning as a press secretary. She's more like an excuse secretary. Her entire strategy seems based on the hope that if she talks in long enough circles, people will forget what the original question was. And to her credit, sometimes it works mainly because the audience is left wondering whether she's speaking English or quoting from a rejected script of political mad libs.
Now, even the most reliable lefties are roasting her, but it serves them right. After all, she was their pick, a historic first. Black, lesbian, and board certified by visiting angels. But you know it's bad when DC operatives call it a grift. Hell, that's like Taylor Swift calling you a 6. But they say that she was ineffectual, unprepared, needed to be coddled, and couldn't manage a team. What's that sound like? DEI. What happens when you hire someone based on identity and not merit?
And let's not even get started on her inspirational moments, those rare times when she tries to channel Obamalaval gravitas but ends up sounding like she's dramatically reading a cereal box. Today, we reaffirm our commitment to communities, strength, equity, boxers, and windows. Next question. Greg Gutfeld didn't come at her with he held up a mirror and the reflection. Absolutely terrifying. If incompetence had a face, it would be hers, complete with that odd smile she wears whenever the words immigration, Ukraine, or any topic needing a real answer come up. The saddest part. She truly believes she's doing a great job. It's like a string quartet playing on the Titanic, smiling, spinning, and pretending everything's fine while the ship sinks beneath them. Gutfeld was just the guy pointing at the lifeboats, chuckling, while she tried to patch the holes with glitter and wishful thinking. Meanwhile, the press corps sits quietly, nodding along as if her verbal game of Jenga isn't falling apart right before their eyes every 20 seconds. Next voice, Greg Gutfeld, docent. Need a podium or a debate partner? Just give him a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre, and the comedy unfolds on its own. Her idea of crisis management, pressing control out, and hoping for a reboot. Criticism hits, and she reacts like she's dodging incoming artillery duck cover. Deflect. When she tries to sound strong, it's all the same rehearsed phrase. We stand firmly committed, like she's playing fridge magnet Scrabble with a thesaurus. Karine is basically the human version of buffering. Ask her a question, wait 7 seconds, and get ready for a spinning wheel of vague, meaningless generalities. Gutfeld didn't roast her. She showed up pre-roasted marshmallows in hand and soaked in lighter fluid. If this administration were a sitcom, Karine would be the character who stumbles in, delivers confusing exposition, and then face plants over the coffee table. And Gutfeld, he's not just the laugh track. He's live, unscripted, and nails every punchline without needing a rewrite. This isn't political theater anymore. It's karaoke night in purgatory, and Karine keeps picking the same off-key ballad, forgetting the lyrics by the second verse. Every press briefing feels like a choose-your-own-adventure book written by someone allergic to conclusions. Gutfeld didn't need to prep or rehearse. Karine showed up already clowned out. All he had to do was shine a spotlight, and her juggling act imploded on its own. She's not spinning facts. She's tossing them into a blender and hoping the noise buys her time. Let's be real, this isn't a battle of ideas. It's a vote on competence. And Karine Jean-Pierre brings the political skill of a potato in a tuxedo. Sure, she's dressed for the role. But what you're watching isn't a press briefing, it's a live demonstration of what happens when performance meets paralysis. Gutfeld, armed with nothing but sarcasm and a grip on reality, watched her pull off her greatest illusion, yet pretending she still has credibility to burn. This wasn't a takedown, it was a funeral, and the casket was stuffed with every answer she never gave. By now, her briefings have devolved into surreal performances, like interpretive dances through bureaucratic fog. She speaks in riddles, half-truths, and twisted metaphors that could send a fortune cookie into an existential crisis. Ask her about the border, and she launched into a monologue on infrastructure. Mention inflation, and she pivots to a story about lemon farming and equity. By the time she finishes, the original question feels like ancient history, and the audience has aged into Medicare eligibility. Through it all, she speaks with the unshakable confidence of someone who thinks they just crushed it at TEDx Oblivion, and that's what finally broke Gutfeld, not the incompetence itself, but the proud, unwavering delivery, like a mic drop in slow motion. He didn't dismantle her. He just lifted the curtain on what's been a one-woman show of administrative confusion. The real surprise. After all these daily disasters, there was still something left to set on fire.